Hi everyone, welcome to my channel and to this time-lapse version of a very moody seascape and the beautiful Dunluce Castle in the background. I hope that you enjoy this time-lapse version. Full tutorial will be coming out shortly on Patreon if you'd like to paint this along with me. But if you enjoy this, then please do hit subscribe here on YouTube. So I've been working on landscapes and lots of different subject matters for demos in the last couple of years. And I'm really starting to enjoy the landscapes. So I'm going back through older photo reference that I've taken many years ago and hunting out more images that I feel better equipped to tackle these days. And I hope that my patrons will enjoy working along with me, lots of different types of landscapes, seascapes, and I hope that they'll enjoy it as much as I'm enjoying experimenting with different subject matters. So this photo reference, taken a long time ago, but of a view of Dunluce Castle on the north coast of Ireland. This view of the castle is quite far away. You're quite a few miles away on another beach, hence the sea and the rough waves between us. I love this view of the castle as you can really see just how close the ruins are to the edge of the cliff. And it's an impressive sight with this big building right on the edge. And it's a really interesting place actually, with a lot of history if you're interested in looking into historical buildings. So I've started at the top of the painting. I'm using pastel matte. This is 10 by 12 inches, the same size as my last seascape, which is actually from the same location, just a different view from the same beach. And I'm using the sienna color of pastel matte. When I look at the overall tone of the castle in the photo reference, I'm really seeing that warm tone, the same color as my paper almost. So the idea with this one, it's a different type of lighting. That's what I'm really experimenting with these days. Most of the landscapes that I'm choosing to paint are for a particular type of lighting. And I really liked the moody feel in this one. We really get a sense of the distance it is over to the castle. And there's a mist or a spray coming off the rough sea that prevents us from seeing the castle in its full contrast. Between the mist of the sea and how far away the castle is, we're really not seeing it in its full definition. And I really like how all of the colours in the distance here, they really stay within the mid-tone range. I do have some darks going in. There are dark purples. Dark brown is my darkest value, but no black in this piece. And in the background, there are also no really bright highlights either. So everything is within that middle section of the tonal value scale. And sometimes that alone can really help to create a sense of distance because we don't tend to see things that are far away in high contrast. And all that really means is you're not seeing much of the darks or the lights. You're seeing it more in terms of mid-tone colors only. And that's what I wanted to play with in this piece. I really tried to not put in too much detail in the background. Everything back here needs to feel quite far away. And I wanted to save the finer details for the foreground waves where I really want to start our journey as the viewer and those waves that take you right across to the castle. So I kept smaller details to a minimum back here in the distance. You can see here I'm just layering up some colors on the rocky cliffs. And I'm really only adding a touch of detail into the areas that are sunlit. And we've got big shadows cutting right across the base of the cliffs. And I barely put any detail in those dark shadows at all. When you look at the photo reference, we're really not able to see any detail in there from this distance. So I tried not to spend too long on the top half of the painting. Just putting a few hints of highlight across the cliffs, but trying to leave it pretty loose and subtle. For the past few months on Patreon, I've been producing some mini demos that are focused on different types of water. So this was the next mini demo, and I decided to tackle rough waves this time. Last time I did a very peaceful beach with very soft waves lapping onto the shore. This time it's a bit different. There's a bit more drama in the water. So I'm bringing in some greys that have blue-green in it. So those lovely greenish greys that I'm using in the water on the base layer. And you can see that I've got my white foam tops of the waves all sketched out. And I took a lot of care in sketching these out because part of the reason I really like this photo reference is that the cliffs seem to be going off into the distance in one direction, and then the sense of movement that I get from the waves, they're really cutting across in slightly the other direction. It's all pretty subtle. The perspective here is pretty subtle. The waves have a slight angle to them, letting us know the direction that they're rolling in towards the shore from. And because this is a portrait-shaped landscape, I feel like the perspective has to be just right on these rows of waves and on the cliffs as well to give that impression, but in quite a narrow slither of a painting. So just working up the whites of the waves. I don't actually pick up any pure white until right at the very end of the painting. So my overall lightest value is a color called Grey 24 from Unison. And that's one of their very light tints, which has a slightly yellow hint to it. So I really like to avoid pure white and then just bring some in right at the very end for those brightest pops of light. And the wave at the bottom, I'm also adding some greens and different colors here. We've got a section of the wave that you can see in the photo reference that is more in the shadows. And once I get the white foam parts of the waves blocked in, then I come back and I start working those little areas of water in between the waves. So I like to get the whole bottom half kind of blocked in so that I can see where I'm going. And then I go back up and start to work the detail downwards in the painting. So still no pure white used. I'm building up the waves or the white foam parts of the waves using a variety of colors, light lilac tints. I'm using some of the duller blues that I used in the sky. I'm using those same blues from the sky to add the other texture on the top of the water. So bringing some of those colors from the top of the painting down to the bottom and hopefully unifying the color palette a little better. And then in the foreground, we've got some darker water here. You'd be surprised at what colors you can see mixed into water, especially oceans like this. So I'm bringing in greens, the darker greens from the cliffs and the hills above. and the darker brown as well. So again, bringing some of the colors from the top half of the painting down into the bottom half. Otherwise, the painting could look a little bit disjointed. If I don't use any of the same colors from the top of the painting down here, it will definitely look like a painting of two halves. So just by repeating some of those colors, it really helps to tie the whole thing together. So I really enjoy painting different types of water. The next one on my agenda is to have a go at a waterfall. So I've been asking my patrons for some watery suggestions. What else would they like to see in a demo? And there are so many ways that soft pastel is an amazing medium for painting water. You would think with this dry medium that it wouldn't be so good at depicting water, perhaps the way it is so good at depicting fur on an animal. But the blending capabilities of soft pastel make it so good. I haven't really found a subject matter that isn't great with soft pastel. So just adding the last bits of texture in the foreground, and then finally a little tiny piece of white just to add all of the sparkly bits at the end. So if you would like to work along with me on this one, step by step, discover how to create all of those different textures within the painting, including the mist coming off the tops of the foam, then do come and check me out on Patreon. But thanks very much for watching this here, and until next time, happy pasteling.